Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's from the Shadowborn show. I want to say show first. I don't know why. Anyway, Brian, great to have you with us. How you doing?
Very good, very good.
Are
Great to
you?
be here.
Are you? What are you anticipating in this journey to Nexi? Is it going to be a hand wash? Is it going to be like you do journey and you arrive?
Uh,
Because you asked
I,
for the
I
map
would,
earlier, didn't you?
I was curious just to do a little bit more um, put together in my head uh, between what we're doing here in the game and stuff that I've seen you do in other videos in the past. I was just trying to connect some dots. Uh, and what we had on World Anvil was not quite as detailed as I was hoping, but that's okay. Having the map of Othirius though did help me get a solid image of where we're going now. And no, I don't expect anything as mundane as a simple journey through the woods to our next destination.
There you go. There you go. And welcome to all of you joining us now live. I really appreciate your company. Some wonderful, wonderful people in chat. Giving us all sorts of wonderful welcomes from all over the world, including Croatia. There are lots of
Oh,
D's
cool.
and I's in that particular greeting. Anyway, glad to have you all with us. And just remember that after the show, which ends in 58 minutes or so, give or take, I will be doing a review of how we're running today's session. And let me tell you, today's session, I've taken a new route, and I'm going to be interested to see how it works. Now, do not try this at home, unless you. Well, I don't know. Just don't try this at home. Just don't try this at home. That's why we're here. Watch and learn, or laugh. Anyway, good to have you here. I will have names open in Discord so that Grizzles is vindicated. He's given such lovely lists. He, she, they, I'm not sure, has given such lovely lists of names. So I will be using those today. But without any delay, let us sink into the world of Utherios as the stormy sea on the south coast. On the south coast, sorry, I'm just getting my alignment. I am completely telling a lie. On the west coast, the stormy sea crashes and bashes angrily against the beach. And that is maybe 300 yards away from the little road that the two of you are following. That is yourself, Raj, and young Alexei, who is ride walking that mule in front of you, leading you, hopefully, to the city of Nexi, which was your intended destination. That being where perhaps the young Zil, the oldish Zil, I should say, has fled to, been abducted to, left, run away to. We're not entirely sure where he's going. But you are on this road. The waves in the ocean seem angrily dark green today. The wind is not particularly comfortable as it tries to claw its way under each and every crevice to find its way to ice its little tendrils across your body, even though you have fur, and now an upgraded image of the fur. Check it out, by the way. But yes, that is where you find yourselves on this bitter, bitter road. Alexei hasn't said much since you left the little temple of Hecaius, several hours now distantly back. What are you doing?
Uh, Tell me, Alexei, tell me about where you come from. What is the place you come from?
He kind of looks back at you. Now, Alexei is dressed in a very simple tabard, as worn by most Etherians. He has a shoulder plate of very rusted, although attempted to be polished clean, little sort of shoulder guard, pauldrons, and then sandaled feet, as is the custom, and then a few belts and things in a backpack. He looks back at you, the wind sort of whistling through his ancient Greek or Corinthian styled helmet, I should say, and says, "Me, sir? Where do I come
Yes,
from?"
yes. If we are to travel together, I would like to know about you.
You can see that his teeth are chattering because, unlike you, he does not have a fur coat, and so this cold weather is starting to get to him. I'm from Naposti, sir. It's to the north.
I see. And what brought you to this part of the world where we met together?
He looks at you. He looks down at the mule, who doesn't seem to care at all, and he says, "Well, to be honest, I needed to raise some money, sir."
I see. Raise money for what purpose?
He goes quiet, and then he looks back at you again. I needed it for something, sir. I had to pay someone some money. And what brought you here, sir?
I was sent by my father on a first business trip, but unfortunately, it was a shipwreck that landed me on the beach here, where we met.
He taps his Corinthian helmet and says, "This was my father's helmet. He wore it during the Toloma War. It was all that they brought back of him."
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He died in battle, so at least there's that. Yes.
And did you hope to follow in his footsteps as a soldier, or?
No, not really. I wanted to join the Heroes Guild. There's good money to be made in the Heroes Guild, and then I could send that back to Naposti.
I see. And do you have any other family back in Naposti? Your mother, or?
Yes, I have my mother, and I then have 5 brothers and sisters, sir.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
They can be a handful at times, yes. They're all younger than me.
Oh, you are also the oldest. Very nice.
Yes.
I have 8 younger siblings myself.
8?
Yes. Tabaxi families can be quite large.
Oh, my goodness. 8? I wouldn't have thought of that. Sir, could I ask, perhaps, it says that there's a little village coming up called Tiki. Could we maybe stop there for the night?
Yes, I can see that you are quite uncomfortable and would not like to see you catch a cold or something.
I'll be fine if you want to carry on, sir. It's I'm not going to slow you down.
Perhaps we could also find out here if anyone has noticed Zeal come through. It would be good to get information.
I agree, sir, he says, as he starts to ever so slightly increase the speed of his mule, heading towards this little village known as Tiki. It is maybe another 2 hours of trekking across fairly open plains, which is probably why it's so cold. The mountains slowly disappear on your right-hand side and give way to this exceptionally large lake, which seems to be almost as big as the ocean. And for a while, on one side, you can see the ocean, dark, grim and grey, bashing against the beaches, sending up that wonderful salty scent. And on the other side, way off in the distance, the very, very flat almost glass-like surface of Sebus Lake. Eventually, as the sun is slowly starting to set, you see nestled against the coastline a village. It is an older style Utherius village, which means that most of it is actually built into the hillsides, rock forming entrances to caves originally, most likely now dug out and made a little bit more accommodating. But effectively it's built on the sides of the cliff that overlook the, for lack of a better word, little bay that's there. And as you approach closer, you realize that that strange promontory of land, which is nearby, certainly would be why there would be a calming of the ocean. I will add the little village here very quickly for you. And that is, it's quiet. Nothing seems to be happening whatsoever. It's just nestled. A few lights flicker in the windows and smoke is lost amongst the sea spray. Mm-hmm. Shall I find us a tavern, sir? Alexei is now almost blue.
Yes, let us quickly get you out of this cold.
Only if you're cold, sir, otherwise I'm fine.
No, let us find some warmth.
Moving through the streets, there is a strong aroma of fish and salt. Obviously, that's what this little village subsists on. Your knowledge of the area would indicate that no big ships would ever stop here for any reason whatsoever. The river that is to the south further on would be of no value as a freshwater source. It's too difficult to get to. And with Aramosi Kala to the north, or even Lavas, there really is nothing here aside from existing. The tavern that you find is a very small affair known as the Fish and Hook, and seems to be inhabited by a rather large rotund woman. You realize she is definitely human, although most of those features have been lost to the folds and the chins and the roundness of her. As you walk in, though, she gives you a great big smile. Outside, Alexei says, I'll find the stables, sir. And
yes.
He takes your horse. The woman looks you up and down. Welcome to the Fish and Hook. Welcome. Come in, sit down. Wow, we don't get many of your kind around here.
I'm quite sure. Myself and my companion need a room to stay in for the night. Would you have such a room?
Yes, we don't judge here. We've got plenty of rooms. One bed or two. Do you want the deluxe?
2 beds.
Oh,
2 beds.
I see.
Yes.
And meal? Tonight we've got definitely. Cod.
Cod? Oh,
roast cod, grilled cod, boiled cod, fried cod, dried cod, and then cod.
Wonderful. I do love my fish. Would not happen to have any cheese to go with that, would you?
I think we might be able to find you some cheese. Yes, why not? I think it's not very common we get people coming your way. It's our luck this week. It must be, absolutely. Are you heading to the wreck?
To the wreck? What is that?
There was something terrible about, must have been a week or more ago now. Great big kerfuffle out in the ocean, and it washed up wrecks all along the coastline. 3 of them breached on the island just off the coast yonder. There have been several attempts to go and look for survivors and whatever might else be there, only it's proven to be a little bit tricky.
Oh, yes. I am actually a survivor of one of those crashes. Uh,
Are you here to
Maybe a
claim
little
your
bit.
ship back? She gives you this look.
Actually, I am leaving that area, not heading towards that area.
Oh, well, in that case, then, sit yourself down by the fire. I'll get one of the boys to look. You,
I,
your companion, is he taking the horses round to the stable at the back?
yes, yes.
Ah, very
And
good.
I forgot to ask, how much would this cost us?
Well, that depends, actually. What type of ship were you on? Were you on one of the guild ships?
No, I was on quite a small ship, actually.
Little Red Number.
Little red number.
Her hull painted red.
Oh, uh, I believe so, yes.
Ah. You wouldn't happen to know why there might be rather a bad vibe amongst the dead of that ship, would you?
Well, the circumstances that we led us to crash were quite extraordinary. Some very powerful magic that may be the cause.
A curse, you think?
Oh, that is possible. Yes, that is possible. Have the dead come this far to your town?
No. She looks you up and down. Are you from the Heroes Guild?
No, no, I am not. I am just concerned for your safety, is all.
Oh, that's all right then. No, they haven't come into town. They can't breach the channel. But well, we caught two of them, sent them on to that monastery up north. Well, they'll take any monsters these days. Only there's still more left behind, and we wanted to know if what we should do. Send more to the north, or just get rid of them. But you can't get rid of them if they're under a curse, can you? She places a large warm beer in front of you. It smells vaguely of, you think, fish, which is perhaps not what it should necessarily smell like. So you're not from the... You're a survivor, and you're going to Nexi.
Yes, I am looking for a man who came from the north, a man by the name of Zil, one of the monks there. Has he passed through here?
Oh, yeah, he did indeed. And, well, let me tell you what a pass-through it was. It must have been yesterday. No, this morning. When was it? Yesterday night. They got in. Him and a couple of his elvish fellows. Such strange folk that, taking their shoes off before walking inside a building. I mean, who've ever thought? Especially the floors around here, let me tell you. I wouldn't want to walk on that barefoot. No, thank you very much. But, no, he came. Brother Zil, I think he said his name was. And, he came in. Pleasant enough fellow, a little bit shaken, a little bit nervous, if you ask me. Seemed very excited about things. His companions, of course, just quietly sat there until they got drunk, and then it was, my goodness, the worst singing I've heard in a long time. And let me tell you, the men around here certainly don't know how to sing. Well, those folk, I thought we'd stepped on the tails of 9 cats. Oh, no offence. No, but it certainly sounded, I mean, it was awful. It really was awful. And they sang until, good heavens, I don't know what time. Then eventually they went off. They left this morning. Bright and chipper as if they hadn't touched a drink last night. Very strange, very strange. You're trying to catch up with the brother, are you?
Yes. He is a recent friend of mine, and I would like to know. Yes, I need to catch up with him. Let's just keep it at that.
Well, I wouldn't advise going out tonight. There's going to be a squall out at the sea, definitely. Old Essen's knees playing up definitely means there's a squall going to hit any time soon. So you don't want to go out on the moors tonight. But you'll want to make your way across the Ganamos River after the rains. It'll be quite full tonight and tomorrow, most likely, unless you head back towards Sebos Lake. I can't tell you which route they're taking. All I know is that they left this morning bright and early. They didn't seem to be in much of a hurry, though, so you might get lucky. And, of course, if you don't catch them between here and Nexi, you should be all right, too.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you. And I do apologize. It is the business habit that I have raised with. We have not agreed upon the price of my accommodations.
Oh, yeah. No, don't you worry. Don't you worry. Look, it's been a good week, as a matter of fact, with all of you lot coming wandering around and having a look and a see, and I can't say that I'm unhappy with it. So why don't we just call it? Oh, I don't know. Are you going to be drinking anything else tonight, sir? Not that you can't not. I mean, I've got some. Oh, I'll tell you what I do have, which you might quite like. Not that I'm prescribing what your particular species might like, but I do have some Kin Frothy. Beautiful minty flavour. I got a crate of it off the delivered just the other day, as a matter of fact. It is a bit pricey, 3 silver on the bottle, but it's definitely a foreign taste.
I could try that, yes.
There you are. Or perhaps, hey, do you like wine?
Not a big wine drinker, no.
Oh, all right. No, then that's never. Okay, well, I'll get you a Kinkin Frothy then, and then it's the room for 2. And that'll be 3 silver for the night, and then the Kinkin Frothy for your companion too.
He may not have the stomach for something so exotic. Just the ale for him.
Dancing Badger, I got you. All right, Dancing Badger's 3 copper, the Kinkin Frothy's 3 silver, the room is 3 silver, so that'll be 6 silver and 3 copper. Unless you want food too. Like I said, we've got nice cod.
We will need to eat.
There you go. Right, so call it a gold and we'll be all settled.
That sounds like a fair price.
So eventually Alexei comes in, sopping wet because it has started to pour with rain outside, and sits down. The woman gives him a laugh, looks at you, looks around, and she said, "There isn't a fireplace in your room, but that lad'll catch the death of him if he stays like that. Tell you what, you go and sit next to the fire. I'll bring you your food. It'll be ready in a few. Was that to have the cod grilled, fried, boiled, sautéed, with or without extra cod?"
Grilled would be perfect.
Yeah. All right. So she disappears off. Alexei drinks the beer quite happily, sits next to the fire, desperately trying to warm himself. You join him?
Yes.
He looks over at you and he says, did you know that there are some guild heroes here?
I think the woman mentioned something about it, but did not give specifics. What did you notice?
Well, there's 3 very fine horses in the stables. They're all marked by the guild. You know, heroes have to. Well, they're legally required to declare that they are members of the Heroes Guild. That's the only way that they can operate. Their horses have got their emblazoned upon them. Have you seen them? Are they here?
I have not I've not noticed them yet, or have I noticed them?
No one else is in the tavern at all. It's just the two of you and occasionally the flash of bright light from the lightning outside that's striking as the squall is building. Eventually, the large woman comes through with several plates. She puts down various pieces of cod in front of you, mostly grilled. The aroma is absolutely spectacular, actually. A little bit of rock salt, a little bit of rosemary, grilled to perfection, as a matter of fact. If there's anything else, I'm around. Just give me a shout. And you've basically got the place yourselves tonight. No one's going to come out in this weather. So, yes, off you go. Have a good evening.
Do you have any other guests staying here tonight, my good woman?
No, not at all.
Oh.
Just the two of
okay.
you. Yeah? When you're ready to turn in, I'll show you which room is yours.
All right. Thank you.
She nods and goes back to the counter where she starts to wipe it down and do the usual barkeep type of activities. Why do you think, says Alexei as he starts to stuff cod into his face, why do you think she said they're not staying here? Do you think they just left their horses here?
I do not know. It does concern me a little bit, but I understand that the heroes are also looking after the shipwrecks of which I am a survivor. So maybe they are out on the coast quite busy.
You think your ship is wrecked there?
Yes, my ship was destroyed, and that's where Brother Zil found me, on the beach.
You didn't leave anything on the ship, did you, sir?
All of my personal belongings were with me.
Oh, okay. Because I happily go and look for them, he says as he looks outside and lightning illuminates his face and then thunder rolls along as the rain starts to scratch at the windows.
I see. And did you find anything unusual?
No, I would go if you wanted something, sir. I just thought that it was your ship, so you might have something on it. But if you don't, then that's fine too.
No, not my personal ship. I was just buying passage. But like I said, everything did not go according to my plan. So now we have a new plan.
I think so. This is very nice fish, he says as he tucks in. The meal continues. Are you going to do anything that evening?
If no one else is coming in, then we'll go to bed early and get ready to take off early the next morning to try and catch up with Zil.
Sure thing. Give me a perception check that night, if you please.
Okay. So that would be a 17.
You are awoken. Oh, you have no idea what time it is, but it must be very, very early in the morning. By the sound of bumping down from the street below, because you're on the first floor of this tavern. And several people trying to be very quiet. There is a window in your room which you could look out of if you so chose.
Yes, take a look and see what I can see.
It looks like a longboat is being carried by several very wet and very miserable looking people. And they seem to be dragging it from one side of the village up the hill to the top of the cliffs, the route that you took to come into the village, as a matter of fact. The boat itself seems fairly unremarkable. There's an old brown tarpaulin in the middle of it, which seems to be covering some bits and pieces. And as you happen to be watching, one of them drops their corner, causing the thunk that you originally woke up to, and he quietly swears under his breath. But as that happens, the tarpaulin, a piece of it flips open, and you can see a very, very dead, owing to the account of not having a head, a body sort of strapped and tied into place in this space. And they have emblazoned upon them this symbol, which you recognize as the Heroes Guild symbol, on the tabard itself. And immediately they pick it up again, and one of them grabs the tarpaulin and sort of pulls it over, and then they sort of look around. No one seems to have noticed, and they carry on. The squall seems to have now just turned into a heavy rain. The thunder and lightning certainly seems to have lost interest in this coastline and has gone looking for other cyclones to join.
Do the two carrying the boat, do they also have the Heroes Guild mark on them?
No. They look like common fishermen.
Okay. Interesting. So one of the Heroes Guild has lost his head.
It would seem.
All right. Nothing to worry about at the moment. All right. Go back to sleep.
Okay. The following morning, it is still densely overcast and miserable, but everything seems to be in order. Alexei wakes you. The innkeeper said she's got breakfast ready for you. It's more
wonderful.
fish, I'm afraid, but yeah.
Wonderful. I do love my fish.
The innkeeper generally has a large platter down on the main tables and is smiling sweetly. Sleep all right?
Yes, wonderful. Only small noises during the night.
Bear the squall, most like. It takes a bit of getting used to living on the side of a cliff. Yeah, to be sure. You heading off soon?
Yes, we do want to catch up. Were there any late arrivals last night after we went to bed?
None whatsoever, she says. I doubt anyone would want to travel around in that weather.
Yes, I was just curious, though. The very fine horses in the stable, their owners did not come back for them?
She pauses for a moment. They are on the island looking at the shipwrecks, I assume.
Okay. Does she appear to be keeping any secrets from you?
Yeah, give me an insight check. You get advantage because she adds, are you looking to buy some horses?
That would be a 21.
Oh, yeah. She is definitely trying to move the conversation away in a different direction as best as she can.
Well, yes, my companion could use a much better mount than the mule he is currently riding. So if there is a way that we could possibly trade, of course, we pay for extra, but...
Well, now that you mention it, they did say that if we found buyers for their horses, they would be grateful for any coin, as they run on hard times. That's why they're pillaging the shipwrecks. Yes, that's why they're pillaging the shipwrecks. They've run out of money. So If you would be willing to, I don't know, let's say 70 gold for a fine charger?
Oh, 70 gold. That is quite
65
expensive.
then. I understand it's tough times.
Uh, how about 50? I am giving you this good mule in exchange.
Quite right, quite right, quite right. Very well. 50. 50 will be fine. Absolutely fine. You can choose whichever one you like.
Okay. Alexi, go
Yes?
and go and choose your new steed.
M-
Uh, we must travel quickly to Azil may only be a day ahead of us, but we both need decent horses to make this journey. So I have just purchased you a new steed. You will not need to drag the mule along any longer.
In good conscience, I couldn't take the horse, sir. It's a better one than you yourself would ride. You should take the new horse, sir, and I'll take your horse. It's only
Fair
fitting
enough.
that... Yes? All right.
Fair enough.
I'll go and choose one then. He looks at the barkeep. Does it include the barding and the tack? She looks at him, looks at you. Oh, I can't say no to a cute face like that. Off you go. Yeah, you can take whatever you like. He goes scurrying out. So what direction do you think you'll be heading to next? Are you going to make a beeline for it? Or are you going to try and cut across country, take your chances with the ruins of Ganamosii, or head perhaps for the Harada forest, or just go straight across the ever-burning marshes?
What is the most direct route?
Well, if you ask me, going via the ruins of Ganamosii would be the fastest way, but it would take a brave man to go that route. Although, mind you... I beg your pardon?
I am not familiar with your lands. What is
the ruins of Ganamosii were an ancient... it was an old fortress that was long abandoned. People say it's haunted, so that's why they generally attempt to avoid it. But strange noises in the night. If you've got fine horses, as you have now, 'tis but 40 miles from here to... well, maybe 50 miles from here to Nexi. There is a natural ford at the ruins which crosses the Ganamosii River, so perhaps that would be a good place to chop through. And then you've got the Ipsakos forest, which is easy enough, and then you're in Nexi. That would be the fastest way, I guess, but certainly the more sure route would be through the ever-burning marshes. Marshes of Aglios, that's what they officially call. We call them ever-burning because there's a bit of marsh gas every now and again that flares up, so it looks like they're on fire. But they're not, really.
What would be the difference in mileage for such a journey?
Oh, well, that you're looking at about 80 miles, quite easy. You sort of have to do a bit of an L shape, I'm afraid, going sort of around along the coastline for a little bit, and then you head back in towards Nexi. Yeah. I mean, alternatively, you could go back towards Sebos Lake and through Tiklos Marsh. There's a ferry, I know, that goes from Tiklos all the way down to Nexi. From here to that is maybe 40 miles straight across, but that could also be a bit problematic, owning that the Tiklos Marshes. Well, they're foreign. No offense.
I see. Oh, none taken. So the ferry could travel quite quickly to Nexti?
Oh, yeah. It's only 40 mile along the river, and the river is as broad and wide-flowing as it can. The Haitos River is not known for its violent tumultuousness, from what I gather. My husband used to go fishing there on occasion. He said it was quite nice if you could avoid the locals, which is too easy. Well, easy enough, I should say.
I see. What is there to be aware of the locals there?
Well, they're lizard-like, so if you get on the wrong foot, they just eat you, along with
I see.
babies. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
But the husband
All
never
right.
had a problem while he was out there. He said he'd just leave a carcass of something nearby, and they'd take that as a sort of offering, I guess. Yeah.
That sounds fair enough. Fair
If you
enough.
ask me,
Thank you.
though, those Ponzi elves certainly won't go that way. All of their, oh, we're not going to get ourselves dirty and all that nonsense. But then again, I don't know. I mean, it's your friend. You know which way to go. Alexei comes in. I've chosen the horse. Should we take the guild badge off?
Yes, definitely. We are not members of the guild.
You can leave that here. I'll give it to them when they come back from their when I come back from their fishing trip.
Okay. All right, Alexei. We will be heading towards the route to take the ferry. Let us make haste.
Yes. Okay. Let us make haste. Swing by any time you like, you two. Always nice to have good guests. You step outside, and the horse is this magnificent black-coated beast. Maybe, as they count horses in hands height, he is maybe 17 hands. It puts him at almost 6 foot to the shoulder. His hooves are the size of your outstretched hands, and his mane is so black it's almost blue. He gives you this long look with these very dark eyes, and you can't but help get the impression that he's judging you somehow. Your horse that you rode in on stands a mere 13 hands and is a dun brown in comparison and looks rather anorexic, as a matter of fact, as opposed to this muscular mammoth that you seem to have procured. Do you need a hand up?
No, I should be all right. Let us get going.
You mount the horse, and again, it's like having this magnificent, muscled fortress underneath you. And as he walks, there is this sense of power. I need you to give me an animal handling check.
Okay. Oh. A 0.
You clop your way out of the village and make your way up onto the wide open plain. And the moment your horse sees this massive open plain, he just explodes forward. At first it's a bit of a canter, and then it breaks out into a full-on gallop until eventually he is just striding across the plains, moving at tremendous speed, just leaving Alexei in the back. He's shouting, "Sir, I can't." And then he disappears into the background, pulling on the reins. It's like you've thrown the reins around a tree trunk and you're trying to pull a tree. He is pulling you left and right rather than you pulling him left and right. You're going to have to give me another animal handling check because he is just thoroughly enjoying this ride out into the middle of nowhere.
This horse does not want me to take control of him at all. That was a 1.
You are standing in the stirrups, leaning back with all of your might, pulling on the reins, and all it seems to do is just push his head further and faster as his stride opens up even more. And he goes like this for at least 10 minutes until eventually he comes and starts to slow down, and he seems to have enjoyed flexing his body, which is now slick and shiny with sweat. And there is that aroma of the leather saddle and that horse's coat, as he seems to now be kind of proud of himself. Unfortunately, you realize that he has dismissed you completely as his rider and is just going where he wants to go. So he sees this particularly fine outcropping of some new shoots from a particularly large bush, and he walks over and he grazes on that for a little bit, and then he sees a little stream and he wanders over that and he drinks from that for a little bit, regardless of what you are doing on top of him to try and stop or control him. There is no sign there is no sign of Alexei at all. It is just wide open plains, and way in the distance, you think probably to the southwest, you can see a low hill just gently disturbing the flat horizon. And on top of that, a few broken ribs of an ancient old keep, which you assume must be the ruins that the innkeeper was talking about, because there is nothing else out here except for wide open plains. What are you doing, sir?
Okay. Going to see if we can make friends with this horse by using the friends cantrip.
All right. Are you going to dismount for this, or are you going to stay in the saddle?
Stay on top.
All right. What are the terms of the friends cantrip?
So concentration for 1 minute, and for this duration you have advantage on all charisma checks.
I see.
Basically gonna try and charm the horse with my personality.
There is a scene of this cat. How tall is Raj?
He's about 6.5 feet tall.
Okay. So there's a scene of this black cat sitting on a very large black horse. What are you saying to this horse to convince it to do what you want it to do? How are you... Mm-hmm. Yeah, give me a roll first. Let's see. Let's not do it backwards, as they say. So you can give me an animal handling check using charisma instead of wisdom.
Okay. And you get advantage on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
As you try to talk to this horse.
So that will be a 14 for the check. And I'll say, most magnificent animal. I'm very proud to have met you and become hopefully friends with you moving forward. We are very similar in color, and I think also in strong in nature. Obviously, you are much more physically powerful than I am, but I think that we can work together very well.
The wind plays across the grasses that make up the majority of the plain, causing this golden shimmer to wash around, and his mane and his large tussle of mane that sticks between his black ears billows for a moment. You hope not as a death shroud, because you're fairly certain this horse could kill you. And for a long moment, there's just this quiet as he stands there, occasionally moving the bit around in his big mouth. Somewhere on the wind, you think you hear the voice, "Master! Master!" You're not entirely sure. And then a much deeper voice says, "So, you think we are equally matched in power?"
No, that's what I was saying. You are much more powerful than I am, but that will complement my charm and agility. Will match your power, and we can do great things together.
What exactly do you think we'll be doing together?
Traveling together throughout this wonderful land. I'm hoping.
With you riding on my back?
Yes.
And you think that's fair?
Well, I will not always need to ride. In fact, it is only when we need to make speed that I would ride. Many times I would be just as happy walking together.
Give me a perception check.
12.
The horse appears to be drawing in the grassy dirt with his hoof, and it looks like the number 10. I want that every month in gold as salary.
Yes. Now, do you want the gold itself, or that equivalent in finest hay to be eaten, or?
You think just because I'm a horse that you can pay me in hay rather than in gold? Why don't
no,
I throw some whatever it is your species eats on the ground and see how you like it?
I did not mean an insult. I was just trying to be accommodating. If it is gold you want, gold you shall get.
I can spend gold. I can't spend hay. Besides, that is your requirement to supply me with, and over and above the gold.
Very well.
Right. I suppose I should know what your name is.
Actually, I am so surprised that we are having this conversation. I apologize, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Raj. And your name, good sir?
Why are you surprised we're having this conversation?
I did not know that you would also speak the common tongue.
A talking cat did not know that I could talk.
Yes, we do not have creatures as magnificent as you in my country.
Well, that is true. That is true. Brindisians are a very rare breed. Unless you watch every stream that I ever do. But that's fine. My name is Quinoa. At least that's what you can call me for now. I haven't yet officially decided on my full title, but for now, Quinoa it is. I am curious to know, what happened to my last rider, Weshvin?
That may be the one who I saw lost his head yesterday. But how that came about, I do not know.
He never knew how to ride properly, and wouldn't take my advice either, so I suggest, unlike Weshfin, you listen to good old Quinoa. Next time we go charging into battle, keep your head down. It's probably what he forgot to do. Besides, leaving me behind was a foolhardy decision in the first place.
Definitely, definitely. I shall not make the same mistake.
Good. Then we are on the right footing already. Now, that young fellow that you seem to be travelling with. I suppose we should go and find him.
Yes, let us find him and go back on our way to the ferry. If you believe that will be a good direction for us to travel, I will be open to your advice.
I'm a horse. I have no idea which direction you want to travel in. That's part of your duties. You just tell me we must go in that direction, and I will take us in that direction. If you use spurs, by the way, you will find me riding you the next time you fall asleep.
All right. That is a deal.
He sort of looks around. Well, there's no sign of him. He hasn't been this way.
I heard him. Let us go back the direction we just came, and see how far ahead in your wonderful speed we came.
I have done my morning exercise. We don't need to run. But, yes, I understand speed is important.
Oh, yes.
But
yeah.
first,
Run, but...
I need pay up front.
Oh, very well.
He
Keep
puts
it in
his
your
massive
saddlebags.
head to the side. Exactly right. That saddlebag's mine.
All right. Pleasure making this contract with you.
Very civil.
I think
He starts to plod in the general direction that you indicated, and after a good half hour you see on the horizon these two little skinny arms waving, and the bright red tabard that old Alexei was wearing, and it is soon that you are reunited with him. He looks flustered, he looks hot and bothered underneath his heavy Corinthian helmet. "I am so glad to find you, sir. I thought when that monster took you away, you weren't coming back. But here you are, once again showing why you are the master, and I am the squire."
Well then, let us get back in our direction towards the ferry.
Right. He turns and starts riding, taking the lead. You notice that Kinvar's head is quite next to the nape of Alexei's neck, and you get the impression that there's a bite coming.
Kingvar, my good friend.
Yes.
This young man is our assistant, a squire as it may be. Please do not scare him away so soon.
There is a sigh, and then he retracts ever so slowly. Alexei looks at you. "Did you say something, sir?"
Yes, I forgot to introduce you. The wonderful steed that you chose for me. This is our new companion. His name is Kinvar.
"Oh, that's a lovely name, sir. Is that from your home country?"
No, that is his name from his own country.
Okay. You can speak to the animals like the druids?
Yes, you could say that.
Oh, good. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Kinvar. Right. On to the ferry then, sir. Just one bite is what you hear from the horse. And that's where we'll end tonight as we continue our journey on towards the ferry. Brian, thanks for joining us. The hour goes so quickly. The hour goes so quickly. Oh, I thought it did. I don't know about you.
It did especially fast tonight.
It did seem like it, didn't it? I was like, oh my goodness, it's 8 o'clock already. Well, it's 8 o'clock here already. So I see chat's also going, what? An hour has already passed? I don't understand this madness. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, you're definitely hot on the trails in one direction. We're not entirely sure whether it's the right one or not. Brian, anything that sticks out of today's session as being something that you enjoyed particularly from your side in terms of what you were doing?
Liked the interaction with the horse, and somewhat surprising, but with my as I took a level of bard, I for several different reasons, mostly since I'm traveling alone, I wanted to have a few extra skills behind my belt, but I did make a good backstory to go along with that. But also interesting how even though I could hear the horse, Alexei didn't seem to hear what I was hearing. So that sounds like something else that may have to do with the prophecy.
Perhaps. How do you think? Well, let me just ask you this quick question: the hero guild was in town, and assumedly are away. Is Roger's policy? Hey, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know. So I'm just going with the flow. What take us a little bit through that thought process.
Yeah, he's already committed to one thing, and even though he knew that the two undead he faced already from his own ship, so he knew what was going on there, but any other ships, he didn't know anyone on them, so didn't really matter to him. All he knows is Zill right now, and so he wants to find out why this guy disappeared without a meeting, so without saying anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, Brian, off to bed with you. I know it's an earlier clock in your part of the world. Thank you so much for this week. I think it was a lot of fun. Next week, we'll talk about why you chose Bard of all of the choices. I know you said you wanted some more skills, but we'll unpack that a little bit more next week, perhaps. All right. So, yes, thank you so much for being part of today. And before Brian disappears, thank you to everybody for watching. I will be doing a post-game review where I talk about the new system that I was trying out tonight. It does contain spoilers. Well, it does and it doesn't, but I can't tell you what it actually contains because Brian's still here. Anyway, stick around for that. I'm going to grab a cup of coffee, which usually takes about 3 minutes or so. I will set a timer, so you'll see when the stream continues. Anyway, until next time, if you don't stay for the stream, we'll see you next week. Same time, same place, same channel. You got the details. Until then, goodbye. with a few seconds to spare, I'm back. All right, so. I can close this window now, actually. We are back, so I hope that you are around for this. Now, it does contain spoilers, in a way. So bear that in mind. And by spoilers tonight, it's really on a new system that I've been trying out. You know, one of the things that I like to do is to, try and figure out solutions that work and that are practical and that we can use in role-playing. And the journey that young Raj is on is a very straightforward journey. As a matter of fact, I actually need to see my OBS, but if I go here, for example, I am in World Anvil. Now, this is World Anvil's map display. The map was made in Wonderdraft, and then I brought it into World Anvil. And what you may have been seeing during the show was I was turning these on and off. I've shared the map with Brian, and he sees these pins here, which is basically the names of cities with a very brief little descriptor on them. There's nothing a huge amount. Large docks, major trade hub, sprawling pig town, famous for bacon. So not a huge amount of detail that he wouldn't necessarily have known about. Sorry, I don't know why that did that. That should have a little pop-up. But not a huge amount of detail, all right? The other layer is called Great GM Adventures, and that's these pins here, which I've popped on, which he can't see because he doesn't have access to them. So that's one of the benefits of the World Anvil space. Now, the other thing, of course, is that I've added in these pins. I wish I could zoom in closer, but this was the scale that I made the map at. Now, each of these pins is an adventure hook. So Tiki, for example, the little village of Tiki, the island has a wreck to be explored, but it has movement. So that's the undead being restless on the Tiki. Now, before the session, about, I would say, an hour and a half before the session, I opened up the map on World Anvil and I just started dropping pins. Quite literally just right-clicking and dropping in a pin. And I worked through different types of adventures. So each of the little spaces is another little village called Akratopikokos. I need to get that name right. But there is a setting, a little descriptor. It is a deliver type mission. So it's a delivery mission. The marsh that they're going to, the Tiklos Marsh, is a discovery mission. The forest is a thwarting mission. The ruins is a collection mission. So I literally went in and just dropped one-word sentences with different types of adventures. Safe passage through very dangerous fire swamps. That is as far as I have got in terms of planning. I did not add anything else. There is no... I didn't touch a thing. So that as he moved, because originally he was starting here. I don't know why it's doing that, actually. That's very weird. But anyway, originally he was starting at this blue marker and then heading his way south, ostensibly towards Nexi. So I just populated whichever route he might take with little adventures, so that when he arrived at any point, I could throw out a potential adventure. Now, why am I doing this? Because in our plot structure, where are we? Let me just get that open for you. In the plot structure that we have worked out for this particular campaign, we are now after the first point. So let me make this nice and clear here. The first point, the first adventure was washed ashore and saved by the life cult. All right. That is now done. We have solved that. He has got his rewards. He has got his level up. He is a happy cat, and he now has this companion of Alexi, which I loved, where Brian was starting to build into Alexi. Where are you from? You have brothers and sisters. Why were you at the camp? So he was starting to ask those great questions, which allowed me to throw in a whole bunch of stuff. I have not developed Alexi's character sheet yet because I'm not convinced that Brian is going to keep him around for a very long time. Having said that, Alexei is a straight up likable. He's not very competent when it comes to battle and that sort of thing. He's a meat shield for Raj's character, but he is proactive. So he will run around and he will be proactive and he will be supportive. So socially, he will support Raj. He will always put Raj first. So that's why whenever Raj was making decisions that would possibly elevate Alexei above Raj, he would defer. So with the horse, for example, I can't let you ride that horse. It's better than, it's worse than the one that you would be giving to me. So you must ride the best one and I'll ride the worst one. So that wasn't the plan with the horse. It was just making sure that it is very clear where Alexei positions himself. He is a support NPC in terms of my naming conventions. A support NPC is someone who quite literally is there to support the character. So he will do all of the stuff in the background. He'll take the horses to the stables, and occasionally I'll use him to feed little bits of plot, but that's it. The next plot is where the death cult reaches out to Raj. However, this is not something that we need to rush to. We do not have to do these. Well, we have to do them in order, but we don't have to do them straight after each other. So what we are currently in is what I call an emergent adventure. And that is where Raj is now trying to find this Zil. Now, that leads me to tonight's challenge. I had put down in Tiki that there was a collecting mission for shipwrecks, with the very specific intention that he might pick up on that and say, oh, I want to go and explore the shipwrecks. It could be fun. I could find reward. He did pay the captain 300 gold pieces, which he seems to have written off at this moment. So I thought he might want to go and get that stuff back. He does not want to go on that because his character is not concerned with that. His character is concerned with finding his friend Zil. This means that this adventure now is finding Zil. And so that will be the adventure that we now run. So Zil, I now know, okay, great. I can use the 5-step form to fill out the adventure of finding Zil, because that is what the player has now told me fairly emphatically is what he wants to be as this mission. Absolutely fine. I will still offer him the missions of the Ruin of Ganamosii, which is a restless soul needs a lost relic returned and all that kind of stuff. This is really just, if he wants to do it, he can do it. And if he doesn't want to do it, he won't do it. And when he arrives at Hytos, at Nexi, which is what he seems to be very adamant on, he will get to Nexi next episode. That I promise you. He'll arrive at the marshes, it'll be spooky, it'll be freaky, and then he will arrive at Nexi. Why? Well, because, and I'm just going to show you the template layout, when we go through the 5 steps, it's arrive at plot, journey to plot. Technically, finding Zil was the arrival at plot, where he discovered that Zil had left with the elves and that they had gone south. So now we're at the journey, which is where he was talking to tavern keepers and finding out all kinds of things. I do desperately need a combat because we've had humorous moments, we've had fun moments, we've had character building moments, which I think is good. And the negotiation for the horse technically would have counted as a combat. It was a verbal interplay between the characters. There was stakes, etc., etc., etc. But I would like there to be a combat because I want to demonstrate what Alexei is willing to do for Raj and for Raj to try out his new powers and his new skills. He purposely took Bard because he wanted a whole bunch of other bits and pieces to add to his character, so we should give him that. So perhaps, now that I've said that the arrival at the town, will be straightforward, maybe we'll have an attack on that barge by some creatures so that he can protect them, the people on the barge by those creatures, perhaps in the swamp itself, although that would seem to be very, very obvious to have that attack on the swamp. So most likely it'll be on the barge sailing south. It could be bandits, it could be pirates. I have set up something very big, which I am keeping in my pocket for much, much later. Possibly even down here somewhere. I don't know, but I'm keeping it in my pocket. And that is the guild members. That is the guild members. He took a guild member's horse. Legally, it was sold to him by the tavern keeper. Do you think a guild member who arrives in town having been betrayed by this little village of beachcombers, thieves, smugglers, and pirates, that the guild is going to care? All they know is that their talking horse has been taken by a black cat, a tabaxi from the south. They will be looking for the horse. And yes, the horse can talk, but that doesn't matter if the horse isn't anywhere near Raj when the guild shows up. So it is a long con play that will have the guild coming back to talk about the horse. How Raj will work his way through, I'm fairly certain he will be able to talk his way out of it. I don't think that he has a problem with that kind of stuff. But it is just something that we have put in there, because he only saw one body in that boat that was being carted up from the coast without its head. The other two I had in my mind were stuck on that island, and then he could go and rescue them. So I threw out 2 plots for him to pick up on. Go and explore the wreck, or go and find out what happened to the guildies. He chose neither of them because he is focused on the journey, which is absolutely his prerogative. And this, for me, is where the difference comes in between a railroad and a sandbox. So he can choose what he wants to do, and how he wants to do it is entirely up to him. And so there we go. That's kind of it. So this was my new trick. I don't normally do this. I don't normally drop adventure pins all over the place, but we've got the tool. We might as well use it. And I think it's a very, very efficient way of reminding yourself. I could just literally mouse over and go, oh, collecting the island has a ship. Oh, perfect. Right. That's all I need. And then off I go. If he had chosen to go to that shipwreck, we would have had a combat getting to the shipwreck, and then I would have written up a very short little adventure for on the island using the 5-step method, so that they could then move across and carry on with the journey. So now we know the next adventure is going to be getting to this lizard folk. They're in a large swamp that's under a curse, but we're not going to worry too much about that. He gets onto the ferry, sails down to Nexi, and when he arrives at Nexi, that's then when we have the plot twist. Okay? So that's when it becomes interesting, and we learn something new. Remember, Zill's journey away from the refuge of Hikaeus was an on-the-fly decision just to get the story moving. I still don't know why Zill left. He left with the elves. Okay, that's great. But what about it? There's a small part of me which says that the elves said that if he didn't go with them immediately, they would wipe out everybody in that town or in the little village and in the monastery. But why would they do that? What does Zill have that could be of any value? It could be a backstory of Zill's, which I could certainly work in. I think that could work quite nicely. It could also be, and this is my intent, by the way, folks, is to get from Nexi to Pythios, which was originally Raj's goal, was to get there and go and buy an Alexandrite gem. So yeah, it is progressing. It's going in a direction that the player is choosing as far as I'm concerned. What I will do in between now and next week is I will work out in Nexi some cool bits and pieces that we could possibly look into and go through and explore as a potential adventure sideline. But I don't think he's going to want to stay in Nexi. I think once he's found Zill and we've kind of gone, okay, well, Zill is actually being abducted, or is this, or is that. Okay, great. Let's move on. And the move on will be to get to Pythios. So those elves want to get to Pythios. So if we look at the geography, Pythios is one of the largest, well, it is the largest city in the south. Across this little border here, this border in the south, let me just make sure you guys can actually see that. Across this little border is the Elvish territory. So they could be trying to make their way down across to the Anastas forest and deeper into the Elvish territory. That could certainly work. It gets us going where we want to. Once he's at Pythios, he can then decide what he wants to do. Does he then want to go from Pythios all the way up to Definiai so he can find the rest of that prophecy? prophecy. He did mention the prophecy after the game. I hope that was of value for you guys to see, letting him talk for a little bit, seeing where his mind was and where is it going. So yeah, that's basically the long and short of it today. That list of names that Grizzle had been posting up was absolutely wonderful, and that's why it's important to have 10 names you can pull from. I literally just went, okay, well, Kinvar sounds like a cool name for a horse. So his name is Kinvar. So there we go. Now, that horse, by the way, the moment I mentioned that the horse starts to talk and he has a particular accent, everyone was going, oh, it's Donkey from the Karos Stones. If you watched that was on another YouTube channel called Save or Dice. That was a game I ran a long time ago where there was a talking donkey. He was never ridden, I don't think. He was just a talking donkey who had a bit of plot in him. That is another short stop that I have. So people say, okay, well, your NPCs are this or that or the next thing. Now, when I'm playing with different groups, I will use these short stops when I'm stuck in a particular situation. The situation I was stuck in was that he kept rolling very badly for that ride check. And the animal handling check is there to bring an animal under control. Now, I have, in my youth, done a lot of horse riding. And if a horse doesn't want to listen to you, there are very few things that you can do beyond actually harming the horse to stop it from doing what it's doing. Anyway, so when it looked as if, okay, well, he was never going to be able to control this horse, let's give him another NPC to work with. So now he has the horse. I specifically chose the fact that the horse can only speak to him as its rider, as a symbol to show that the horse is now bonded with him. It's as if in 5th edition you would it has attuned to its rider, basically. So no one else will be able to hear the horse. And that gives me a couple options. The horse can now become a sounding board for ideas, because Alexei obviously is no good. He's a bit of a damp squib in that department. So the horse can tell him how it is and be a little bit gruff and those kinds of things. So quite literally, he only got that horse because he failed his rolls. If he had passed his first horse riding check and had brought the horse under control, it would have just been a very fine war horse. And that would have been the end of it, because there wouldn't have been anything interesting coming out of it. So oftentimes when I say to people that dice don't tell me how the story will unfold, the dice guide me in terms of making a better story, that is the answer. So it was my attempt at Sean Connery. My voice is not exactly back to where I like it to be, but it's definitely getting there. Okay, so I will take some questions. We've got a bit of time, so I think that's as far as I can go on what happened tonight. The only other thing is, in case you didn't see it, if you are a patron of the channel, this is what the patrons got last month. And this is a new document that we're releasing now. This is for taverns. So if they'd asked me for a name, there's a name generator, there's a name generator of the tavern itself, there's staff names, and then all those costs and things I've put down here so that one can kind of add it together. Now, she miscalculated because she didn't want him to actually ask too many questions. So we'd worked out the basic costs and that sort of thing. And then, of course, there are 30 potential adventures that each of those places can give. So this came in when he was talking about, oh, I want to drink this and I want that, and so that's where the Kinkin Frothy comes from. A Kinkin Frothy. It's ice cold, bright blue, and smelling of mint. It does sound quite nice, I must admit. Anyway, so if you were wondering where the hell that was pulled from, that's where it comes from. Are there any particular questions? I see there's one. Captain Prices says, Bard, why? Well, I must admit, when when Brian, I was doing the new layout. What do you guys think of the new layout, by the way? Do you think it's better than the older one? Is it clearer? At the moment, it'll just show you bits of Discord where Brian normally is. But I spent a bit of time on it. I thought, let me neaten it up a little bit. We'll put ourselves up there. And then normally this would be the Dungeon Fog map. I had Dungeon Fog open, but I didn't need it because he didn't take on any particular direction. And then the main map is actually a much bigger space, so we can see a lot more of what's going on. And there you can actually see that I said maps by Dungeon Fog, because normally this is where the maps would be. So if we went into a Dungeon Fog map, so I do have And this is the new thing, by the way, if you also don't know about Dungeon Fog. So Dungeon Fog has now got a template system where I and others, I assume in time, will be making template locations. And what these template locations are is quite literally random spots. So I needed this afternoon, I was like, well, what if he goes into the marsh? I needed marshes and things. So I went, well, hang on a moment. Dungeon Fog's got a marsh. We've done some generic marsh templates. And I think that this worked out really, really, really well as a download and use as needed type of system. So that's what the new templates are going to be doing, allowing us to do that. And I think this was a template that we made a long time ago for the Ghost of Saltmarsh, as a matter of fact. Generic pathway through swamp. So that is what the template system is, and that's what the maps would look like. And I actually updated the tokens as well for young Raj. So we now have a Raj token, and we have an Alexi token, so that they could see. Now I will make a horse token as well, although the horse won't be so much of a combatant, obviously. I mean, that goes without saying. So when that got me very sidetracked. When he said he had taken Bard, I went, well, that's interesting. I hope that we get to roleplay. I even suggested to him, I said, look, well, we've got an episode, this session coming up. What if he and Alexi sang road songs? Because that would kind of be like them learning and singing, and that would, And he went, no. He's worked out a whole backstory with his mother or his grandmother, which I think was lovely. So eventually we will find that out. We'll get there in due course. And yeah, we'll go there. So hopefully, Captain Prices, that has answered your question of what did I do differently. Because I don't get to speak to Brian other than during these sessions and for a little bit beforehand, it's difficult to anticipate exactly how he was going to play today's game. Now I know. Focus on Zill. So hence using the Dungeon Fog, not the Dungeon Fog, hence using the World Anvil options and just littering the place with potential quests because I didn't know what he was going to do today. I now know what he's going to do today. So there we are. Under normal circumstances, you could just have a list of quests and randomly drop them in. I'm a visual person, so I quite like having the map show me, oh, this is what could happen, this could happen here. It allows me to give descriptions. I'm not sure, did the descriptions, were they too heavy today in terms of the little rise on the hill, breaking the line, and the towers, or the wind and the squalls and all that kind of stuff? To me, having a map, it really allows me to express more the location. But anyway, I mean, that's just a thought. I don't see any other questions, so assumedly I have covered everything that you might want to ask or sort of gather. I do think that the insight we have gathered today on Brian's playing style of Raj is very interesting. It's going to be pointing him in a direction and then making sure that he can follow in that direction. So there we are. PGH Vapor 15 says, sort of unrelated to the story today, although it was very enjoyable to listen to. That's great. I'm currently running a game in the world of Ravnica. My group is a bunch of my Magic the Gathering friends who wanted to play some D&D, and it seemed like the best way to get them into a safe place. So far, they have been enjoying it, but I want to really make the story a bit different. Advice. Well, Ravnica, I don't know Ravnica. I last played Magic the Gathering when it was an expansion called Ice Age, and Magic the Gathering was still in 4th edition, which was 1997. So I don't even think they had a complete world back then. I think they were just doing stuff. And only later on did they start coming up with all the actual lore. I do, however, remember that there was a book that was released. And I don't even know the world that was set in. where they showed how magic worked. So, and I have not read the Magic D&D conversion either. I do believe, though, that it was unfortunately not as exciting as it could have been. My advice for you, and take from today's lesson, listen to what your players are talking about. Listen to what gets them excited. Listen to what drives them. So we know Brian today wants to find Zill. I could string this along. When he arrives in Nexi, there could be someone who says, oh, I saw Zill. He's still here. But I'm not going to tell you where he is until you do X, Y, and Z for me. And then he will have to go and do X, Y, and Z. So I could pad this as much as I want to. I could drive this in all different kinds of directions without a problem. I'm not going to do that, though, because I know that we've got basically 5 sessions for this to run through. We've taken 2 sessions already, so we need to start wrapping it up if I want him to find Zill. Once he's found Zill, like I said, he seems to have been brought in on this prophecy. So with your players and Ravnica, I would do the same thing. So, yeah. That's what I would do. Listen to them. They're enjoying this component of it. Give them more. They're, yeah, that was okay, but I really want to go and do this, or I really want to go and do that. I don't know how they would have translated it in terms of sorceries and interrupts and all that kind of stuff. I don't even think they have those anymore. But yes, I would look to that. Listen to them. They tell you what they want, and then give it to them. Captain Price says, what is your plan to deal with Gollum, since when Raj starts talking to NPCs, they might start talking to each other, and there are and some are the in-party, so it's basically PC conversation. Yeah. So Captain Price says, I mean, that's an excellent question. The answer is, I think it's fairly straightforward. I will not be going, so, Alexei, where do you come from? Oh, I come from the north, from Naposti. Oh, that's fascinating. That's not going to happen because you're listening to me talk to myself. What I will be doing, however, is that I will be saying, Alexei and the horse, not that the horse will talk to them, but if he gets other NPCs, Alexei and the other NPC engage in a conversation. Give me an insight check. Raj will give me an insight check if whatever the roll is, assuming he succeeds. You notice that the two of them seem to be hitting it off really well. And they're talking about Alexei's past and his 5 sisters in Naposti. And he seems to be quite protective of them. So in other words, I will describe the emotional outcome of those. And if there are any particular pieces of information that I want Raj to be able to pick up on, he will hear them. So I won't play through the entire conversation. I hope that helps. AK Writer says, how did you just like that know that was 1997? I even had to look up several times when the first Lord of the Rings movie was released, 2001. So firstly, 1997, I was still in high school, and I remember that it must have been around about then because we'd been playing Magic the Gathering. Probably in 96 was the boom for Magic the Gathering in South Africa. And we were playing in school, and we had one player. He was a savant. He really was a genius. Photographic memory. The teachers hated him because he refused to take notes because he just remembered everything. Just a real genius. Bottom line genius. And he figured out how Magic the Gathering worked way before the rest of us did. And so his decks were unbeatable. And it didn't matter what color he played or mixture or combo. He knew the math behind it. And so he beat us all. And it was in 1997 that Star Trek Decipher cards came to South Africa. And we switched from Magic the Gathering to the Star Trek cards, A, because I was a huge Star Trek fanatic, but B, the system that Decipher had released was particularly badly made. And as a result, we wrote our own rules for it, and it became our own system. So, yeah, 97 was the big shift. So that's how I remember that. And Lord of the Rings, I watched in Houston and Texas. At the time, it was the most expensive movie I'd ever seen. I was out there filming wildlife. So it's just, those are particular dates. But ask me what I was doing last week or what the date was last week, and you're on your own. Okay. T-Cat says, do Tabaxi have a natural enemy? Maybe could be a way of getting him stoked up and to do something you like him to by bringing in an NPC of this race. I haven't really developed the Tabaxi in the south. The campaign building never really got there. I would personally, to answer this particular question, I would ask Brian to help me develop the Tabaxi. That was one of the strongest things about Braxia, is that, and that's my other campaign world, is that most of Braxia, I built the basic, and then players came in and said, can we play this? Can we play that? Can we play the next thing? So that's if I do this, we might get a better, more interesting picture. Although you can't really read that text, can you? Anyway, so yeah, I usually get them to then help. It's not a bad idea. I don't at this present moment in time necessarily need him to be motivated to go in any direction. It's now very clear where he wants to go. So I will happily facilitate. There is an official Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica book setting. Yes, there is D&D. It was released at the beginning of the year, I think. Fairly big brouhaha about it because we didn't know what the new release was going to be, and then they released that it was Ravnica, and it was designed to get the Magic players to come in and start joining and playing D&D because, of course, the company Hasbro owns Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. Any other questions? No, okay. I think we're almost there. AK Writer says, somehow I wonder how much Tabaxi have in common with cats. Furballs basically incapacitate them with a laser pointer or a ball of wool. Well, I'm not sure. I think that as much as it would be as much as it would be fun or funny to say that the Tabaxi have hairballs and that sort of thing, and furballs, and there are certain animal characteristics that animals can get away with because they're animals, and that humanoids can't get away with. Because by the same argument, then you'd say, well, then why would they wear clothing? They wouldn't wear clothing and that sort of thing. I mean, it opens up a whole big can of worms, which fantasy generally doesn't even pay attention to. It usually just ignores it and goes, oh, the moment it's sentient, it wants to wear clothes and it wants to do this and it wants to do that because it's what we expect as decent behavior from a humanoid to a large degree. Anyway, that's what I would think. Yeah. Very Nazarick says, how do you handle a situation if your players are ending a session with a scenario that might come to a PvP blowout next session? As that happened to me, and the next session will be on Monday. As long as it is PvP and the players are using it as a story device and as a character development device, then it's fine. But if it is actually player versus player, then you need to step in. And you need to as the game master, say, okay, stop. What's going on? Let's talk about it as players first and then identify what's going on. So PvP is sometimes just the players letting off a little bit of steam, but generally speaking, there's an underlying thing there and it needs to be looked at. And I would text them right now. I would send them text, well, unless of course it's late for you, but I would send them messages saying, hey, listen, I'm a little bit worried that there might be PvP this coming Monday. Is it because you don't like the player, or is it character on character? If it's character on character, let it ride, let it have fun, and let's see where it goes. But yeah, if it's player, then definitely step away and have conversations with them privately, and then with the rest of the table as well, and say, listen, is this what we want? All right, last question, then we'll call it for tonight. Jimmy James says, on that note, how do you play a race that, like Tabaxi, Elizabeth, etc., who players tend to think of as just animals pretending to be people? Well, and AK Writer points out, of course, that Wookiees are an exception. Wookiees were effectively naked throughout Star Wars, but they still had bandoliers and stuff. You go, well, yeah, that's practical. That would make sense. And yes, I think that if chimpanzees got to the point where they had language, they would probably want to have little slings for their tools and things that they make, and starts to take one down on that long journey. I think it's entirely up to your table. It's up to your GM as well, because your GM is the world creator. If the GM, like me, says, well, you tell me what the race is like. Do you want all Tabaxi to wander around without heavy clothing on, but with utility belts and that sort of thing? That's absolutely fine. It's entirely up to you. How other races would deal with that? Well, to be perfectly frank with you, if a bunch of catfolk arrived that were bipedal and had shaggy hair everywhere, and I mean, effectively, we are talking here about covering up of the anatomically correct elements, which caused so many people to freak out on the Pegasus image that we had in one of our videos. Would we as humans accept it? We probably would. We'd probably laugh and go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, let's all walk around. I mean, we'd do our judgment thing, which is what we do. But it's up to the GM. It's up to you as the player. And generally speaking, because these are fantasy games, unless you are commissioning artwork and then showing off that artwork, it's unlikely you would have it as your opening sentence. Oh, I'm Tabaxi. We don't wear clothing, but we've got belts and straps and a backpack and practical stuff. Everyone would go, oh, yeah. Oh, ha, you're naked. And that's probably the last time that they would mention it. So if you don't play the species as humanoid with humanoid values, it becomes very difficult to relate. So I usually try and pick something that makes the race slightly different, that separates them. So lizard folk are perhaps cold-blooded, perhaps not. They probably wouldn't be in order for the amount of activity that goes on. But maybe lizard folk eat the dead. So then you would do that as a ritual. Again, nothing that breaks or slows down the game, because you want it to become irritating. You want it to become flavor, not a game slower, downer, stopper type of thing. But yeah, I think that, I mean, there's the wonderful ability that we have with role-playing, with storytelling, is that we can try and answer these questions. If there was a dog person, right, and they had the same anatomical structures as modern-day dogs, can you imagine if the president of France is busy chatting with this person and the next minute they curl up and start licking themselves because within their culture that's perfectly acceptable? Well, this is frequently what happened in First Contact. Well, not that particular action, but frequently in First Contact, where you have the explorer who's on a ship and wearing all this garment coming across humans who were wearing a thong or maybe less. There was a huge amount of judgment that went on, and there was an enforced change, as a matter of fact. I know specifically in South Africa there was a tax. If you appeared in town wearing traditional clothing of the Zulu, which was a thong, you got taxed. So you had to wear pants and a shirt, and you could hire those before you could come into town, so you could make money off of you, right? Anyway, it is a thing. All right, so it's definitely it's an interesting topic, and there are lines that can be crossed and can't be crossed depending on your level of maturity, as far as I'm concerned. Where do I suggest buying artwork? Look, artwork is always tricky. Artwork that we needed for the book, we went to, I want to say Artist Station. I want to say that. I don't know if that's the right. Wait, wrong button. I don't know if that's the right. I've got it here. Give me a second. What was it called? Yes, ArtStation. So ArtStation is great if you want professional artists. Now, these are people who will charge you from $200 up for full color artwork, but their artwork is of professional quality. Alternatively, you can go onto Fiverr, or I know there are a whole bunch of YouTube, Facebook groups, Facebook D&D art, D&D artists, all that kind of stuff, where you can go and find people that will do art for $75 or $50 or $25 and that sort of thing, and you get an equivalency in terms of quality. So there you are. The artwork that I make using a program called DAZ 3D, which is one of my hot buttons, as you can see, and that is a gigantic hole. You can make all of the artwork that you want. But you have to buy it. So this particular fairy that they are promoting at the moment, you would buy, for example, the basic fairy, which would be this one here, and that's $16. And then you need to get the poses, which is another $11. And then you like that skin. Oh yeah, I like that skin. So that's another $13. And I want that dress because it's a cool dress. There's another $13. So it's great because once you have it, you can do anything you like with it. And I mean, I do all of my artwork with it. But it can be, if this is now, and bearing in mind, folks, this is now if you want custom artwork that is yours to own. If you are just doing this at home and it's just to show your players stuff, you can pull from anywhere. DeviantArt, Instagram. I know that Janet likes to use the what's it called? I hate the name. Combining two images together. What is it called? Anyway, but if you do want character portraits, something that's quite exciting, and I'll share it with you very, very, very briefly. This person does not exist, that sort of thing. Yeah. And AK Writer, you're fairly right. That is where the Patreon income goes to die, is Daz. Although the web goblin who controls the finances, he often says, "Oh yeah, no more spending." And Daz is very kind. They often come to us and say, "Look, you've spent so much money with us. Here, just have $500 off because you're going to spend it anyway." So, but coming up, as a matter of fact, this week's video, we have signed a deal with a new sponsor. So it's World Anvil and Dungeon Fog. We now have a new one called Portrait Workshop. Now, I've spoken about Portrait Workshop before when they were launching their Kickstarter. Well, the Kickstarter finished hugely successful. I mean, like mega successful. But Portrait Workshop is a portrait character generator, which from what I've seen of their pricing model is not going to be bad. I can't give you the exact numbers because I haven't seen the final figures, but it will generate line art, colored line art of your characters with the hugest amount of variety. So over the next couple months, I will be demoing how to use their software. It works on your phone. So I had to figure out how to connect my phone to my computer, which for an antiquated dinosaur like me, it blew my mind that I pressed 2 buttons and my phone now is on my PC and I can control my phone from my PC. It's like, this is insanity. Anyway, so that will be coming out. They've promised me between alpha and beta, basically, demoing stuff. And we're going to be looking at that in terms of how to use that to make your own character portraits. And I think it's going to be really, really, really powerful. And then I got them to make a deal with World Anvil for the World Anvil Heroes section. So hopefully, if they line up properly, you'll be able to make your portrait in Portrait Workshop and then transfer it to World Anvil Heroes if you use World Anvil Heroes. Ultimately, I would also like it to go to Dungeon Fog for token creation, but that's the next step. But yes, so that's really exciting. And I think that what is nice about that is that if you're just looking for character portraits, and this is also NPC portraits, by the way, it's a really, really cost-effective solution. It is not completely... I mean, you can customize everything, the eyes, the hair color, the hats, the armor. What they've been doing with the armor as well is it's not just metal armor. Now you can change the shoulders and the chest and the arms and the da-da-da-da-da. They've really been pushing the software to its limits. But my favorite feature is you say village, humanoid, commoners, and it auto-generates 1,000... well, an infinite number of portraits. I think their combination is like 1 billion at the moment, although that's not completely usable. But it's a lot. It's more than you will ever need. And so if you can just pull those across during your sessions, what a pleasure. Every NPC they meet could now have a portrait. And the power of that, I'm getting excited. There's a reason why we really wanted to jump into to partnership with Portrait Workshop, because there's so much behind it. I mean, we look at maps and we go, oh, maps are so pretty and they help us with our descriptions. Portraits are even more so. And now that it's going to just do the thing, it's just amazing. Yeah, AK Writer, my particular phone version, I have the Samsung Note 10 Plus. I was looking for a new phone, and I was in Dubai one day flying between South Africa and Japan, and they gave me a great deal and I bought it. And it's a great phone, but Samsung, and they've got a special button that you do. Anyway, all right, folks, it's been a blast. I had fun this evening. I must admit, I was a little bit worried when we were talking about, well, it's cod, or more cod. This is the drinks you can have. That felt to me very kind of mundane, but at the same time, it set the scene. It kind of didn't seem too slow, I don't think. So there we are. Anyway, I will see you all on Saturday for Hello World, and then on Sunday for live sessions with the Great GM. Now, if you submitted your 5-step adventure to the Circle of World Builders Masterclass 2020, I will be going through those. Once they are done, then any patron from the $3 tier and up will be able to submit their 5-step tier, and I will go through that on the show. So it's a new feature that we've added in. People seem to really, really have liked it. And yeah, so there we are. I hope you have great gaming sessions between now and then. And until then, well, I say to you, the very happiest of gaming.